After the final whistle of the 2026 World Cup final, Leandro Paredes grabbed a Spanish player by the throat and threw him to the ground while the trophy sat untouched on its pedestal. The confetti had not fallen, the medals had not been handed out, and the defending champions of the world were brawling with the team that just beat them. FIFA has since opened a formal investigation, but what cameras caught that night was only the beginning of what really happened. This was the most anticipated day of the entire World Cup, not simply because it was the final, but because it was the last World Cup chapter of Lionel Messi. 80,000 people packed MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, while billions more watched from every corner of the world, hoping to witness one final masterpiece from the greatest player of his generation. Across from him stood a Spain side that looked almost unbeatable. Everything was set for a legendary ending. Instead, before the football could become unforgettable, something else stole the spotlight. From the very first minute, Spain took the ball and Argentina simply could not get it back. You know that feeling when you are watching your team and they cannot complete a basic pass, when the other side just keeps moving the ball around and your players are chasing and nothing works. That was Argentina for the entire first half. Spain completed 774 passes, a World Cup final record. They had 65% of the ball. Argentina did not manage a single shot in the first 45 minutes, not even one attempt at goal. And you could feel the mood shifting on the pitch. Argentina are a proud team. They do not accept being dominated like that, but when you cannot get the ball, your options are limited. So instead of finding a way back into the match through football, they started finding other ways to compete. And that is exactly where this night started turning into something ugly. After the first 14 minutes of the World Cup final, the temperature of the match changed completely. It started with Alexis Mac Allister launching into Dani Olmo with a reckless two-footed challenge that sent the Spaniard sprawling across the turf. Players froze, and almost everyone inside the stadium expected the referee to reach for his pocket, but he didn't. Just a few minutes later, Nicolás Tagliafico targeted Lamine Yamal. He dragged the teenager to the ground, clipped his heels as he tried to escape, then raked his studs down Yamal's calf in the same movement. Yamal stayed down in pain. Spain's players surrounded the referee, demanding action. Again, nothing. Then came another crunching tackle. Lisandro Martínez crashed through Mikel Oyarzabal from behind with both feet. Another challenge that looked destined to earn a booking. Once again, Slavko Vincic waved play on as if nothing had happened. With every whistle that never came, the frustration on Spain's bench grew. Every missed decision gave Argentina another invitation to push the limits. The message could not have been clearer. If they could not dominate Spain with the ball, they were going to turn the final into a war of attrition, making every run, every pass, and every challenge as painful as possible. The referee's hesitation only poured fuel on the fire. By the time the first yellow card finally appeared in the 41st minute, the damage had already been done. The players had stopped believing the referee would protect them. Tempers were boiling, tackles were getting heavier, and one wrong challenge felt capable of setting the entire stadium alight. Long before halftime, Vincic had lost control of the biggest match in world football. Then came Leandro Paredes. Lionel Scaloni introduced him at the break, and within minutes he reminded everyone exactly why his name is so often linked with football's biggest controversies. He drove a blatant elbow into Rodri's back, sending the Spaniard stumbling forward. In an instant, players from both teams came charging in. Fingers were pointed, shirts were grabbed, and for a few chaotic seconds, it looked as though the final was about to explode. After the match, even former professionals struggled to hide their frustration. Gary Neville, speaking on ITV, called Paredes a disgrace over the last couple of games. On the BBC, Micah Richards was equally blunt, calling his behavior embarrassing before adding, "It just doesn't stop with him. It keeps going and going." For anyone who has followed Argentina over the last few years, none of it felt new. This was the same Leandro Paredes who blasted the ball into the Netherlands bench during the explosive World Cup quarterfinal in 2022, triggering one of the tournament's most infamous mass confrontations. Wherever football descends into chaos, Paredes somehow always seems to be standing at the very center of it. But the thing that actually decided this final is that Spain never took the bait. They did not retaliate, did not get dragged into the physical battle, did not lose their heads. They just kept passing, kept rotating, kept making Argentina run after a ball they were never going to catch. And that discipline is what won them the World Cup, because Argentina had used this exact same approach against England in the semifinal, and it worked. The Telegraph counted 31 separate dirty plays in that match alone. Bellingham got elbowed. Romero taunted English players to their faces. After the final whistle, Argentine players pulled out a Falkland sovereignty banner that is now part of a separate FIFA investigation. Against England, the dark arts worked because England bit every time someone provoked them. Spain never did, not once. And by refusing to play Argentina's game, they forced Argentina to play theirs, which is a game Argentina were never going to win. Then, somehow, against everything the match had shown, the clock reached the 93rd minute, and the score was still 0-0. Argentina have been outplayed in every way you can measure. 0 shots on target across 90 minutes. But they are still alive because Emiliano Martínez has been unbelievable in goal. 11 saves across the full match, breaking his own World Cup final record from Qatar. He tipped a Yamal free kick around the post in the last seconds of stoppage time with his fingertips. The man was single-handedly keeping Argentina in a match where nobody else in the team could produce anything going forward. And the weight of that responsibility was visible every time he picked himself up off the ground after another save. Then came the moment Argentina could no longer escape the consequences of everything that had been building. Enzo Fernández, already on a yellow card after sarcastically applauding the referee, lunged into Pau Cubarsí with his studs showing and sent Spain's teenage defender crashing to the ground. This time, there was no hesitation. Second yellow, red card. Argentina suddenly faced the impossible. 30 minutes of extra time with 10 men against the best passing team in the world. Afterward, Lionel Scaloni admitted there was little he could do. 3 of his 4 defenders had already been forced off through injury, leaving him with almost no tactical options. Fernández also entered an unwanted piece of history. He became only the 3rd Argentine ever sent off in a World Cup final, joining 2 teammates from the 1990 final against West Germany. 3 World Cup final red cards, all belonging to Argentina. At some point, it stops looking like bad luck. It starts looking like a pattern. A team that had run out of answers, run out of composure, and when the football slipped away from them, let their frustration take over instead. Spain thought they had finally broken through earlier in extra time, only for the goal to be ruled out after a foul on Nicolás Otamendi. It was one of the few major decisions all night that actually went Argentina's way. But they could only delay the inevitable. In the 106th minute, Pedro Porro curled a teasing cross toward the back post. Nico Williams rose highest, nodded it back across the 6-yard box, and Ferran Torres arrived at exactly the right moment, smashing the ball beyond Emiliano Martínez. 1-0. Spain's 20th attempt had finally found its reward, though the scoreline could easily have been 4 or 5 without Martinez's extraordinary performance. Afterward, Torres simply smiled and said destiny had already been written. Argentina still had one last chance. Deep into the closing moments, Giuliano Simeone found himself 12 yards from goal with the net wide open. He leaned back and lifted the ball over the crossbar. For every Argentine supporter watching, it felt like the moment hope finally disappeared. Then the final whistle blew. What should have been Spain's greatest celebration became football's ugliest scene. As Rodri sprinted away to celebrate, Nahuel Molina lashed out with his arm. Rodri turned to confront him. Eric Garcia stepped in, and within seconds, Leandro Paredes came charging into the chaos. He grabbed Garcia by the throat and hurled him to the ground, then shoved Gavi to the turf before dragging Thiago Almada down by his training bib. Lionel Scaloni sprinted across the pitch, desperately trying to pull his own players away. Even after the match had ended, the chaos refused to stop, and Paredes was shown a straight red card. And then, the medal ceremony somehow made everything worse. Spain showed remarkable respect, forming a guard of honor and applauding every Argentine player as they walked forward to collect their silver medals. The gesture was met with silence. Argentina never returned the applause. When Spain stepped onto the podium to lift the World Cup, several Argentine players turned their backs, choosing instead to gather with their own supporters. Even Rodri's golden ball presentation was drowned out by Argentine fans chanting Messi's name. Amid the bitterness, one player stood apart. Lionel Messi quietly congratulated every Spanish player, earning praise from Joe Hart, who called him the only man on that pitch with class. Toni Kroos summed up the entire night in just 2 words: football won. When the cameras finally found Lionel Messi, he was sitting alone on the grass, tears streaming down his face. 39 years old, almost certainly playing the last World Cup match of his extraordinary career. It was supposed to be the closing image of a legend. Instead, it became the saddest picture of the night. After the match, Messi accepted defeat with the same dignity that had defined his career. He admitted Spain had been the better team and said one painful loss could never erase everything this generation had achieved. Even in heartbreak, he chose grace over excuses. Behind him, however, the story was very different. While Messi was showing respect, many of his teammates were creating scenes that will follow this squad for years. The greatest player the sport has ever seen deserved a farewell remembered for football. Instead, his final World Cup became overshadowed by chaos, controversy, and a loss of composure that had nothing to do with the game itself. The cracks inside Argentina's squad appeared almost immediately. Lautaro Martinez, the team's second highest scorer of the tournament, never left the bench and later admitted on social media that he wished he could have helped. Messi skipped the team's victory parade back in Buenos Aires, choosing instead to return quietly to Rosario. Lionel Scaloni denied reports of dressing room tensions and insisted he had not discussed retirement with Messi. Meanwhile, FIFA confirmed it would investigate both the post-match brawl and the controversial Falklands banner displayed during the semi-final. And long after the medals were handed out, one question remained. Without Messi's leadership, can this Argentina team hold itself together, or was he the only thing keeping it from falling apart all along? What do you think about it? Please tell me in the comments.